This game's fun, dude. I really like this game. So you asked, what do I like about this game? I like the environment. With Black Desert Online, that was one of the first things I noticed, right? Like when I made the shift from, I'm kind of backtracking. I'm all over the place. So being a WoW player for so long, WoW is just like the fun game. It's the game. It's the game I love. I love WoW. I love playing World of Warcraft, right? Play every character, it's fun. But when I first played Terra, I was like, holy shit. Action combat is great. Action combat is super fun. I don't enjoy tab target anymore, and I've never been able to really get enjoyment back for tab target. I just really like action combat. It was Terra for the longest time, right? Like Terra was my favorite MMO. And then we play tested Black Desert Online, right? We play tested BDO, and I stayed up for like 48 hours straight playing that giant class when it was called Giant, I think. I don't know what it's called now, but that blew me away, dude. I was like, this is the best thing ever. This is what an MMO should be. This is great. And it kind of made it to where Terra's combat didn't seem as fun anymore. Like, one of the biggest things I liked about BDO was that environment immersing you and the combat. And the combat, you know, it's not full. Your action bar isn't full. You don't have 20 skills that you got to figure out. You know, you just do movements, and it's mostly with your mouse. And I was like, this is great. Like, why isn't it all like this? And then the environment. I remember, like, we were like in the first zone that you start off. It's kind of arid, it's kind of hilly, but it's not that cool. But when we got to that second area and it's all wooded, and you'd be walking through the like forest area, like one of the cool things about that was the canopy was right above you, and you felt closed in. Like every other MMO, you angle up to the sky and you see the sky. It's open everywhere. But with BDO, that canopy felt real. You felt boxed in. There was a little bit of claustrophobia. And I was like, I love this. Like, I'm walking in between all these trees and I'm going up over this hill, and there could be anything on the other side of that hill. It's great. So I've never felt the same way about an MMO since playing Terra and finding action combat, and then playing BDO and finding refinement to action combat and the immersive world design. So what I like about New World is the world isn't as awesome as BDO's, but it is complex. There's so many colors. There's so much to this world. I like the way it looks. Everything looks crisp. You know, it's that new design. It's not the cartoony, everlasting design of World of Warcraft. It's more, you know, more realistic, more vibrant. There's so much going on. The ambient sound is amazing. I love this immersion. The canopy isn't as awesome. It doesn't have that. It feels more. It feels like it's not as far. It doesn't push as far as BDO, but maybe I just haven't played BDO in long enough to remember BDO. Maybe I'm exaggerating it. Maybe there's just too much nostalgia making me, you know, love it too much. For me, I love the combat. Like one of the things I really love when we first started playing Terra, I would hit somebody with my sword. I think the first character I played was a Slayer. I hit somebody with my sword and it took damage, and they hit me with something and I took damage, and we could dodge, but there was still no real feedback there. I was just hitting, and the result is damage. With this game, they're staggered. It's like a Dark Souls game. So if you get attacked by 5 or 6 things, you're never going to get a spell off. Like, you're just dead. You pulled too much. You can't control. And I heard Asmon talking about this, and he's like, oh, this is terrible design. You should never design a game to not be fun. You should never force a person to lose control of their character. You're not losing control of your character for some arbitrary, idiotic reason. If you got jumped in the street by 5 people, it's not a Jackie Chan movie where they're all going to take turns and fight you one-on-one. You have 5 people punching at the same time, you're not going to return a throw. That's it. That's the end of that fight. You pulled too much. Where one of the things about WoW right now, going into Shadowlands, WoW has to reestablish, like, it has to limit AoE again. You know, you have certain classes like a Ret Paladin walking out there, Divine Storming, just doing too much damage to AoE. So you've set up this situation where you encourage the players to amass as many mobs as possible and burn them down all at once. So the only way WoW can really establish a limitation of that is to say, okay, well, after your 4th target or after your 5th target, your AoE, your damage is just massively nerfed. This game actually has a design. It's not arbitrary. If you get hit by too many things at once, you're not going to return a throw. You can't fight back. Your block is going to get pushed through. You're going to be knocked aside. Like, it actually has a combat design that forces you to pick smart fights and to not just massively engage. There's another thing that I really, really like. There's collision in this game. And the way the way tagging works, you have to actually hit a mob. You have to do damage to a mob to get credit for its kill. And I'm watching Asmon and these other streamers run around, and they're in mass, right? They're running around with large groups of players, and they're just burning things down, and they're farming that way. They're getting a lot of XP. But Asmon especially is just complaining nonstop that, oh, man, this sucks. This is terrible design. I can't get a tag on a target. If you don't hit a target, why would you ever get experience and loot from that target? You did nothing. You're running around in a mob of 20 people, and you're fighting an elite. And that elite may be 10 levels higher than you. Yeah, you shouldn't. You're not participating. You're not a contributing person. It shouldn't be just mob down all the content. Now, this is still a preview. This is not necessarily indicative of what the final product's going to be. And there's a lot of things that they have to overcome. Like, you have to really dial in your code. If a mob is standing in front of you and you swing your weapon, there cannot be latency. That has to be an immediate hit. It has to be like playing a single player game where you don't have to worry about server communications. So those things have to be crisp. Those things have to be absolutely dialed in for this design to work. But I absolutely love this design. I want to not get credit for mobbing down mobs and just being in the vicinity. Oh, I was standing nearby. Look at this epic I just got. That's bullshit. Oh, I've just farmed a bunch of XP today because I just ran around in a group, not really playing, just, a sheep in the herd running around collecting XP. Like, no, that's bullshit. Play the game, have fun. It's hard to design. I understand it's hard to design. When you play World of Warcraft and it's built for a casual player and you can get away with those things, you're going to have your min-max players that do this. They're going to build the big groups. They're going to do that. Most of your players are never going to do that. They're still experiencing it as, single player, small party. And most players are going to play this game the same way too. But I like that the design has meaning. It's part of it. It's not an arbitrary layer of limitation. It's not WoW saying, well, after the 5th monster, we're just going to arbitrarily reduce your damage. It's like you got hit by 5 things at one time. No, your dude's not going to cast a fireball in the middle of all that. You're holding your shield up, but 4 things just hit your shield. Yeah, that's not going to mitigate damage. You've got things attacking from behind. Another great thing about this, I have a fire staff right now, so I'm throwing fireballs. So if you have that sword and shield, and you run up and you hit a monster, and I'm behind you, and I fire, and you're in between me and the monster, I won't hit the monster. I hit you. Now, there's no friendly fire damage, which would be a shit show if there was, but we working together in a team have to work together. Like, if you engage a target, you need to leave a path for me to hit it. If I have a bow and arrow, a gun, if I'm shooting fireballs, I have to be able to actually hit that target. I don't just shoot through you. And I saw yesterday, I did this AoE meteor type attack, and I was standing outside, and a mob was in a threshold of a door. All my meteors hit the roof. It never did any damage to that mob. I love this. Like, you actually play the game, and you're not just standing there tab target, throwing spells, getting convenience XP and loot. You actually have to participate. So I don't know. I like it. It's going to be harder. It's going to be harder to make it successful. I realize that. But I like that.
What about the crafting? Do you like it?
I do. And once you get to the bigger part of the city, you'll see how the crafting really works. Like, it's nice. I love the UI. I like how clean and crisp the UI. It's not silly, like you're not unrolling parchment to read your quest. I always hated that. The UI is just really clean. Like the chat window, I love the chat window. It's just the text. You don't have to have like this border. Like, it's just text. You don't need all these intrusive frames.